Thanks, Anisah. First, I just want to say well done, and Luisa and Gustavo, and your
Thank
other
you so
author
much.
as well. And good job on taking the initiative to do that thing. The study and the PhD is beautiful, and I hope you get your degree. But what you are doing is really missionary work to help kids that are in difficult situations just look up and feel that, you know what, I may have options. There could be, I'm not just a victim. So I think you're doing really valuable work that is not just valuable to those kids, but also to the knock-on effect in the society. That kid that told you we're not talking about this at home, that kid's going to talk about it at home and in his community and wherever. So I think you are doing valuable, beautiful things. I come from South Africa. We are not in a war, but we actually have a lot of casualties on a daily basis just because of our levels of criminality and things like that. So many people are victims of crime, criminality, being killed and whatever. And our Teach the Future initiatives, the things that you've touched on, where we work with kids that are living in these communities, we have more or less the same result. And the big thing that they come is that realization of potential options, that they're not just past dependent, that option thing. So we seeing a lot of similarities, and I think it could be interesting for future studies to sort of do comparisons across multiple countries that have more or less the same or similar situations. My question that I typed into the chat was for another angle on the research. Since you have been collecting information over quite a bit of time, and you have the individual responses of the individuals, it would be interesting to see whether there were affective shifts over time. In other words, what kind of words did they use? Where were they in terms of their thoughts about multiple plausible futures in the beginning when you started with your process, and where are they now? Did something move or shift in per individual? I think that could also be an interesting perspective on your research.
Yeah, that will be great. That's a great idea. Over the time, my students, that will imply a big research work with a group of teachers that help and to make them possible, because actually currently my students, when I worked the research in 2021, they were in 5th grade, but now they are in 7th grade. So they are with other teachers in another school. So for me, it will be difficult to go and to find them and ask them if they want to be part of another research to continue the previously. And most of them change to different schools, college, and move to all other cities too, because some of the problems here are that if the parents don't find a job, they usually go to another city to find help to the economic incomes family needs. And so I think that it will be a great idea if we had the support of like economic help and the teachers and the researchers and the students that want to be part of the idea. But it will be an amazing idea to make us a reality.
I just typed in the chat, approaching or just researching corporations, because perhaps you may not get a large funding, but just a donation for a small lab, an incubator, an interaction center as a starter. Perhaps you're just an idea to explore.
Yeah, that will be great. And interdisciplinary work with other actors in politics or media, it will be amazing. and creating study centers of the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Doris also put in her last comments before she left. She said even just focusing on effective shift within the period of the time they were in your class. So what I did with my students was we have 18 weeks a semester. So at the beginning, I'll get their feedback about, how they think about the future, what, like the questions that you ask. And then towards the end, on the 17 and 18 week, I ask them the same set of questions and ask them what has changed, So perhaps in the same period, they themselves can actually assess that change themselves. They observe it. And even with the language that they're using. And in our class in Taiwan, I teach in Taiwan, and our students are other than the Latin American and Caribbean students, we also have, students from, we don't have students from Colombia. We have students from Guatemala, Paraguay. Even with those students, they, though they have good English, but they will still say future studies. So I think the first thing that I observe with my students is when they finish the class, I said, at least you can say future studies with an S. That's the minimum requirement. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone who has just mentioned, Luisa. I think you did a very good job, and your work is very thorough. The methodology is solid, it has this academic rigor, and really good job in what you have done. I think looking at your work and also one of my work that I've done with Mexico and Guatemala, and I feel that students with similar economic, region, we are all developing countries. And I find that students in this developing economies, they have this, they show great enthusiasm in, putting in effort to get themselves into get into a better life, because they imagine themselves, okay, getting a good job, buy cars, have houses. And it's interesting because I thought it would just be the Asian mentality, but when I saw the study that we did with Mexico and Guatemala, they have the same feedback. So it would be great to also compare our work with yours, the Colombian students. And I think we have a similar thread that we can pull across this students' feedback, that to show that, people or students, the younger generation from developing countries, demonstrate a level of agency, for wanting a better future. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
What happened to Everett? Everett, go on.
I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, I really like this discussion. I like this idea of the possibility of collaborative research, something along the lines of teaching youth futures in the context of conflict or post-conflict areas. A kind of a cross-cultural analysis to see, to produce that comparison with what are visions of the future among youth in areas that are in recent conflict, post-conflict, or even in the midst of conflict. And how do those, how do ongoing or recently ended conflicts affect visions of the future among youth? I find that the anthropologist in me is thinking along those lines. So yeah, it's tremendously interesting research, and a lot of possibilities for the future in this kind of work. So I hope that in the future we see more work like this from you, Luisa. It would be great to see it, and we would hope to see more of your articles on this topic. Further study, or an expansion of the study. in futures issues of the Journal of Future Studies.
And I think we have two more participants, Jerry Han and Julian. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Would you like to ask questions or have something to say before we close the session? Hi, Julian. Well, in the meantime, while waiting for them, you know, our community of practice, we meet regularly every month. And just for people to use this platform to share ideas, so where we create, you know, knowledge and share content. And if you have more work that you want to share with us, please do write to us from me or Edward. We can sort a time that you can bring your work to the community. I mean, even if you have created some workshops that you want to run, use this space as an experimental studio, if you like, just to run it with our members. I'm sure depending on time, some people can make it, some people can't. This is our regular size. We have about 12 to 15 people most times. And then it's you. Thank you so much for coming and share your work. We really appreciate it. Zerihan and Julian, anything from y'all? I don't hear anything. So Edward, over to you.
All right. Well, if there are no further questions or comments, we'd like to thank you all for participating. Luisa, very special thank you for being the early bird in the room.